Super Mario Bros., a game that everyone knows. It's the kind of game that anyone can just really pick up. My dad's a heavy grown-up, shooty-shoot, realistic graphics kind of guy, but even when he sees the original Super Mario Bros. Set up at one of those weird places that sell the NES game collections at the mall, he always wants to go ahead and play it. The accessibility and appeal to all ages has left it not only great success, but great iconography. The music, the characters, the locales, the bosses, or, well, boss. The atmosphere, the pizzazz, and putting it all together, you create the very first platformer, and one of, if not the most iconic gaming character of all time. A legacy of gaming media and media as a whole. One that would lead an entire legacy of hundreds upon hundreds of games. Nintendo would continue to innovate with the Mario franchise again and again. But how do you end it? No, not the series as a whole, but how do you end the beginning? The legacy of Mario is far and wide across the entirety of the gaming landscape. But without that legacy, how does one end something without a pre-existing genre? How does the original Super Mario Bros. End? When it comes to the conclusion of such an iconic game, the conclusion is something mentioned very little. I'm not speaking on the final cutscene or even the final boss. I'm speaking about how exactly does it build up and reach to its conclusion. I mean, you jump around, crush some blocks, stomp on some Koopas, and make it to the castle, and then the princess is in another castle and you're on the way to do it all over again. It's just the perfect cycle. And it's designed to be that way like any arcade game. Arcade games are infamously difficult in order to eat your quarters, but what's even more important about an arcade game is that it's fun enough to keep that player playing. You don't want to frustrate the player to the point where they shy away from playing again. Just enough to get them to think they could try one more time and finally get it right. As they say, insanity is repeating the same action expecting a different result, so insanity is truly where the money lies. Arcade games weren't designed with an ending in mind. However, they exist as this alluring destination that a player can reach. But with that being said, to get the player to yearn for the end, you need a journey. And what better way to begin that journey than the start? There are many words that you can use to describe the appeal of the original Super Mario Bros. Jumping, running, platforming, all that schmuck. However, there's a single word that I would describe the game. Domination. This may seem like a strange word to describe the game. However, let me explain. When you get to that very first level, you're put in a flat space. Blue sky, green bushes, brick floor, the screen is completely empty. There, this is your world, your domain. Nothing can bother you here. You're free to jump, run, duck, whatever you'd like. Here, nothing can hurt you. But as soon as you walk a little further, you see these blocks. Before you can even take that in, a singular Goomba appears. From here, you're presented with significantly more options to work with, and it requires one to act quickly. Should I jump on them? But they're under a block. What if I accidentally bounce under it? Why don't I try jumping on top of the block? What are those question marks? All this is immediately going through your head. And it's up to the player to act. But why? Why the need to act? Because there's a threat. A slow-moving but approaching threat. And how a player engages such a threat allows the player to learn so much more about the game's deeper mechanics. How to time your jump, how to kill enemies, how to jump from block to block, what blocks do, what power-ups do, and how they can defeat your enemies, and so on and so forth. With all these tools, you begin to jump space to space, and as danger continues to arise more and more, that little area of safety of yours that you had at the start, you begin to find those spaces all across the game, to then leap and overcome this challenge by seeking them out. When you get to that next platform, you say to yourself, this is mine now, this is my safe space. And from there, your options continue to expand. Because you're not just going to stand there, you're going to keep on moving. You're going to get to the other side. even when there's no danger where you're at, you've got to keep moving, to keep expanding your safe spots. And at the end of every level, you have a flag. Now, everyone knows how this works. You jump as high as you can, and then you slide down the flag. But what happens right after is that very flag comes down with you. Now, why is that? Why, it's a flag of a castle, representing the control and danger this level had against you. And with that, you take down its tall flag, and then you walk into the castle with no problem, and a small little flag comes right out of the castle, signifying your dominion over this trial. This right here is your motivation. Your motivation to continue this gameplay loop. This cycle of running and jumping and platforming and Koopa stomping. It's to dominate by jumping from safe space to safe space, and making your own safe spaces. To then claim the entire space as your own, as you take down that flag and conquer that level. And every time you fail at that one part that you couldn't make your own space, or that one enemy was there, or that one platform was just a bit tricky, or maybe you just aren't trying hard enough, you'll remember that one more inch that you needed to conquer that trial, and getting that screen to move forward just a bit gives you enough wonder to tackle what's next for you to dominate. Now, with a reason to continue this gameplay cycle, where exactly does the fight for its conclusion come in? It's the goal to dominate and conquer, right? Well, you're not exactly wrong. However, it is an aspect of a greater execution presented by the game. You see, this gameplay loop of domination, it's a loop, designed to be endless, to have no end. Why, that's how it's designed to be. But with a game like this back then, there was no way to make it endless, not without making the game repetitive. Designing a level takes great skill, and even more skill considering that this was the first of its kind. So a game like this, it has to come to an end, reach some sort of conclusion. And for a game to just abruptly end, it takes a sizable amount of motivation of wanting to reach that. So how does a game motivate you to reach an end? Well, when it comes to the original Super Mario Bros., it is one of the most iconic examples of such a thing. Across the game, you have repeating locales with a bit of mix-ups. However, there is one place, a place that stands above all the others. The castle. Oh, that castle? No, that castle. Now, I want you to imagine that you're playing this game for the very first time. You're getting in the loop, taking down every flag, storming that castle, and topping off with your own as a sign of victory. However, at the very fourth level of every world, you get there as normal. Jump on that flag, slide down, and you walk into the castle to take it as yours. But this one's different. This one's big. And you think to yourself, well, that's probably because it's the last one of this area. I'll take it as mine and move on like any other level. But when you get in, for a moment, just a moment, you notice your flag doesn't go up. And before you could even take that in, the screen goes black, with the stage number and world going up just as normal. But then, you get there. Its simple yet iconic music blares as the calm, bright, and simple game suddenly becomes this tense and dangerous place as you try and navigate this fire-filled castle. Sure, you've been under blue skies, tall trees, bridge-covered waters, and even dark caves, but nothing is like this. The calm music is gone, and all you hear is this constant quick note that never, ever leaves you room to breathe. This castle is unlike any other castle that you've come across. It isn't yours, it's theirs. And I think the most perfect example of that design philosophy is the implementation of one of its most iconic hazards, the fire bar. In any other level, you can dominate the area and take it as your own. Even those piranha plants. If you just stand on top of that pipe, that piranha plant won't come out until you make your move. And once it's yours, it's yours. But with the fire bar, it's never truly yours. The fire bar continues to rotate, and only for a moment can it be yours, but you can't be comfortable, as the fireball will come back swinging, telling you, this is my spot. With enemies, you can kill. But this here? You can't. There's nothing that you can do to stop it. And it adds to this greater feeling that in this castle, you aren't here to dominate, you're here to escape it. And escape you'll attempt to. The castle represents the greatest challenge of this world, and if you can't get past it, then you aren't ready for what comes next. So many players dread this area for how difficult it can be. But if you were to somehow get to the end, there's still one more thing you need to do. You need to get through him. The person that once dominated what you've conquered. Bowser. A character that's as iconic as Mario themselves. Now, the Super Mario Bros. Boss fight against Bowser is one of the most iconic gaming boss fights. But does that really mean that it's good? In simplest terms, all you have to do is just run over or under Bowser, hit the switch thingy, and the whole fight ends there. So how can such a short and simple fight possibly be good? Well, its shortness and briefness is its greatest strength and what makes it so good. At this moment, you've come face to face with the King of the Koopas himself, and with that, you're presented with a challenge, and you must act fast. Bowser jumps up and down, moves left and right, but never comes close enough where he can touch you at the end of the screen. You have to come to him, and if you don't, he'll start pelting fireballs at you. This is his battlefield, and your job is to get out of it. All you need to do is run under him, and it's all over. But the longer you take, the harder he's gonna make it for you. And it all adds to that one feeling. If I could just make it a little further, if I could just get under him that one jump, I could maybe then... You do it. That once dangerous foe plunges straight into the lava, dying just as fast as you have so many times across the game. And you can finally say, this is mine now. The iconic stature of the boss fight is something well deserved, and proves to be effective to this very day. Even the games after it struggle to make it as good as a boss fight as this one. Super Mario World, despite its great praise, is infamous for its ridiculously easy and lame boss fights. The challenging swiftness is what makes this boss fight so good, as every single challenge that you go through across the game requires such swift action. Therefore, the greatest challenge that can come against you at every single world is one quick move. All you need to do is run past it, and it's no easy feat. However, there is another way. Hey, remember those fireballs that he was shooting at you? Well, what if you could do the same thing? If you were able to keep that fire flower power up all the way up to the battle, you can pelt fireballs of your own at him. And he'll try to jump, but he's no real match for it. He won't come near you so long as you don't come near him. All it takes is a couple of shots, and boom, he's down. The same way that he's probably done to you multiple times. You make him play his own game, and he'll go down all the same. The parallels of Bowser and the player only continue to pile up, and it makes it fit so thematically and gameplay-wise. And with all of that, this still wasn't what I was talking about before. You know, that little thing that keeps the player aiming to that end? Well, what is there? Well, let's see. With all that done, you finally get to the end of the castle and wait. What's that thing? A mushroom guy? What's he doing here? Text? Wait, what? Oh, thank you. Wait, what? But who? But our princess is, but our princess is in another castle. These words are a staple of iconography of the original Super Mario Bros. Game. It is the biggest factor that plays into presenting the final goal. Before, you were just continuing on this loop. Run to the end of the level, get that flag, and make that castle yours. But now, there's this princess. Well, how exactly does its iconography of such a line reflect its perception? Some will tell you that it was confusion, or frustration, maybe a combination of both. But with many of them, there's curiosity. Deep within that confused look on their face, there's this sense of motivation. What princess? What castle? Hey, wait, that wasn't Bowser! That was some random enemy! That wasn't the real Bowser! And all these questions begin to appear in your head by this. Back then, they didn't even know what Princess Peach even looked like. What will happen if I get there? And that question, it motivates them to get there. Going from level to level, castle to castle, toad to toad, hearing the same thing. But maybe, just maybe, they'll see something different on the other side. Not just some mushroom guy, but this so-called princess in another castle. Now you're not just conquering for yourself, you're conquering to save someone. And to face the real Bowser and take away his reign. And such a simple, yet effective motivation would constantly be repeated across the gaming landscape. The trope of saving the princess is something constantly repeated in many games. Mario is still doing it to this day. And it's because such a motivation is easy for a new player to get behind, and the prospect of saving the mysterious princess for the first time in the very first game, it's enticing. And that there is what the game does to get the player to keep on playing, to reach that resolution. But with all these pieces built, and the legacy that it's given, how does it end? Sure, its gameplay, enemies, boss, and levels are iconic. Its motivation to keep on going is iconic. The goal is iconic. But how does it conclude? All the pieces are there, but how can you stick that landing? How can you satisfy the player? And as I played, I kept thinking about that. The gameplay loop is fun, but I thought about what may come. What final challenge will it throw at me? What exactly will be the culmination of everything the game has taught me? And what I found was something truly special. We've come a long way, and so has the player. And after a long fight across the Mushroom Kingdom, we've come to the last 2 levels of Super Mario Bros. As you enter the last world and play those first 2 levels, you experience much what you already have, but heightening the difficulty and shifting around ideas you already know. It's a challenge, but a simple challenge nonetheless. It all honestly feels rather anticlimactic, but this is purposeful, because as a player, you don't know when the last castle's gonna be, or what the last world is gonna be. And you're going along the game thinking to yourself, will this be the one? You continue to go on world from world to get to that castle again, beat fake Bowser, and hope, pray you see anything else but the Toad sitting on the other side of the screen. And with the first 2 levels, they are very much the same way. You're jumping around the level just like any other level, and your eyes are set on reaching that castle, and praying that'll be it. But then, you reach 8-3, and at first, it's the same. You begin running forward, and everything seems perfectly fine. But this one's different. There's this wall, a big wall, stretched across the background of the level. And there's this sudden change in how you approach the level. While the happy music stays the same, the tension on what may lie next is gripping the player. Could this be the one? Maybe. But you just need to keep on going to see. This place is a war zone, as you run from wall to wall, as each one looms over you as enemies scourge the area. And with each open area, there are hammer bros stationed up as a line of defense in this fortress. Now, when it comes to the enemies, the hammer bro is one of the most infamously difficult enemies to deal with. The jumping and constant throwing of hammers over their head makes it hard to jump on top of them or even run past them. It takes a very precise timing to get past them. While the difficulty of the enemy has dwindled over the years to just an easy goon to get past by, the original inception of the enemy has stood the test of time to be one of the most challenging foes of the game. And as you navigate and avoid enemies in this battlefield, you finally get to the final stretch, which has this eerie lack of cliffs and pits. And it's this long and final stretch of 2 walls littered with hammer bros. No blocks or steps to be seen to jump on or navigate to strategize against them. No safe spaces that you can really jump on. And now you're forced into a standoff with each and every one of them. Here, it truly feels like the greatest challenge is being thrown at you, as you must get past every single one of them traditionally, and it requires constant caution to get through them. The last of Bowser's forces are standing right in front of you, and all you need to do is get through them, and that is no easy feat. It requires complete mastery over these enemies, and you try long and hard, die, get sent back to the start, continue making it to that one final world with the thought in your mind. This is what I've been waiting for. And finally, after you've finally mastered the hardest enemy of the game, you climb up those platforms, and you get to that one flag one last time. Get in that castle, and from there, you know this is the final level. And what's in store? Well, you enter the castle to see nothing special, and it's strangely easy. There are even some Goombas in here. Some basic enemies that normally aren't present here are here now. The once lifeless and danger-filled castle is now filled with life, but strangely even more lifeless. And you continue on as normal, and go, 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 and go. No matter how far you go forward, you find no end. The level continues to loop over and over again. Now, castles in the past have done this, but there's usually a secret passage that is able to get you to move forward. But here, it doesn't seem like that has that. The level continues to loop again and again, and you can't find a way out. And then instinct gets to you. What about those pipes? I should try and see if I could go down one of them. And you do. And you appear in a different, yet similar area. As you go down, you see another pipe, and you decide to go down it. And where are you now? Why, back at the start of the level. As the player stares at the screen in confusion, you wonder what you should do. You go down the pipe, now you're somewhere else. You go down another, now you're back. Again and again this keeps going. As you run around the castle, everything you see is familiar, with a simple structure that you're able to dash through quite quickly. But all of this feels like this giant cat and mouse game, trying to find the right pipe, keep learning which routes are the right ones, and which ones are wrong. And I remember thinking to myself, what is this? What was the purpose behind this decision? I've spent all my time trying to master this game. Why is this what the game was building up to? What was the goal behind this choice of design? It all feels like a loop. And then it hit me. The genius and tension behind this level. The culmination of all of its ideas and mechanics. All building up to this final stand. It's tested you in platforming, fighting, running, timing, and everything it had to offer you. Does it do the greatest mishmash of everything that you've done across the game? Throw the hardest enemies at you? Make the most challenging boss yet? The game says neither. And what it does with all that knowledge that you've gained across the game, and it all has you use it as quickly as possible. And you've learned everything you could to get this far. Every challenge it presents is something that you can get through easily. Your one and only real challenge is to finish it in time. As you go from pipe to pipe, area to area, your adrenaline to beat the clock continues to rise. The music then begins to speed up in this anxiety-inducing trance as time begins to run low, zooming across the level. You're running as fast as you possibly can within gimmicks and level design that at this point won't bring any extreme challenge. But the challenge is speed. Taking all that knowledge and using it to perfection. And oh boy, that last section is truly special. By this point, you're super low on time, and you're scrambling to the end. You reach that second to last pipe area, and you find an underwater section. Anyone that's familiar with this game is absolutely familiar with how terrible these sections are. When I got here and heard that underwater music play, I simply began to laugh. It doesn't even faze you anymore. You dash across the water and reach the final area where you face one last hammer. Get out! And you finally see Bowser. Every gimmick that he's used in every boss fight is now used here all at once, throwing everything at you. You're low on time, and in front of you is the greatest physical challenge against you. You don't have any time to think. You don't have any time to strategize. So what do? What you've always done. You run past him with ease, with only a couple seconds left, and Bowser falls to his doom. The real one this time! And we finally, after all this time, meet the princess. And we're greeted with, "Oh, come on!" And with that, you finally finish the game. The shock and how fitting the ending was has been something on my mind for quite some time. And I believe it is something that should definitely be remembered. In such an iconic game, I feel that the conclusion is something that manifests the greatest aspects of the game and reflects its legacy in such a genuinely incredible way. Without the proper understanding of what made the gameplay so much fun from Nintendo, I believe that such a conclusion could never be crafted the way it did. And that's why I feel it is the perfect ending to the beginning. Hey everyone, I want to go ahead and thank everyone that has chosen to continue listening to my work. I know it isn't the best of quality, but I've always wanted to take the plunge here, and I'm not very good at editing, as you can probably tell, and I don't really have a good setup. I only have a little bit of time to record because I don't want my parents to hear me and stuff like that, but really, I genuinely mean this, guys. Thank you so much for choosing to listen. And who knows, I can go ahead and do more work. I definitely have a lot of stuff planned, and I would really appreciate it if you decided to tag along. This is Izzy, signing out.